I'm sure you've all noticed this. Secretary of War Hegseth publicly announced more than 800 senior military generals at home and abroad will be recalled, going to the base in Quantico, Virginia for a meeting on September 30th. No one has ever done this in American history. It's too risky. He explained the date and place. If there are new attacks by certain groups, then all the generals of the US military may be at risk of being killed in one pot. And recall all the generals in one breath. With so many bases and operations overseas, there is also the risk of being leaderless. Hegseth took such a risk and insisted on doing it. The reasons behind it must be internal rather than external. In other words, it's not what the US military is going to do today. So bring back the global generals to discuss, but there must be something uncontrollable within the US military. Unrest that is difficult to resolve. In vernacular, there must be a group of generals full of central control. Dissatisfied with the current minister, do not execute the order given by the superior. There is a rebellion within the US military. It's just this big, massive ideological problem. Only then can the United States recall all its generals. This is an ideological preaching to all the generals. Carry out admonition. There is also a prelude to demotion and removal. After this wave, the military chain of command within the US military is bound to experience a violent upheaval. Although soldiers are unwilling, it is the iron law. But that doesn't mean they don't have an ideology. It's not partisan. No internal faction of its own. On the contrary, factional fighting within the US military has intensified over the past 20 years, accompanied by the diversity policies of the Democratic Party, sending a lot of political correctness into the US military, like black generals, lizard generals and other minority generals, or female commanders, gay general, transgender generals and other diverse generals, this liberal mountain of diverse generals. It got bigger and bigger under the Democrats. They are, of course, Democrats at heart. And relatively, the rise of diversity. It will inevitably squeeze the space for the advent of the traditional discontent faction that led to the arrival of those white conservatives. During Trump's first term, it is intentional to crack down on the diversity of the military, invade the advent of diversity. But he was a rookie in his first term. Many of the appointed defense ministers and the chairperson of the Chiefs of Staff Contact Council are not there hard to execute. But now for a second term, Trump has only one hiring criterion left, is loyalty. Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, although only a retired rank of major, used to be just a TV host, but he was still appointed as the head of the Ministry of Defense because this person is absolutely loyal, willing to fully implement Trump's will. In fact, 1 month after Trump officially took office this year, there are already signs of a purge of the U.S. military. Trump was sworn in on January 20th this year. 1 month later, on February 20th, he announced the dismissal of Brown, chairperson of the U.S. Chiefs of Staff Contact Council. The chairperson of the Chiefs of Staff is equivalent to the Chief of Staff of the United States Army. To the right of Biden is Secretary of Defense Austin, who is black. On the left-hand side in uniform is Secretary of the General Staff Brown, a black man. The Secretary of Defense is black. The head of the General Staff is still black. And conservatives were very upset. Because there has never been a black Secretary of the General Staff in American history. Biden deliberately appointed a black Chief of Staff. Complete this diverse political task. Conservatives have long been angry about this diverse mountain. So Trump has only been in office for a month. They unplugged Brown, changed to traditional white. When Kane came to be the president and minister, Trump unplugged the largest one as soon as he came up. It indicates that this invasion within the U.S. military will not be polite. It also sent a clear signal. In the military, conservatives declared war on liberals. Did you know that Brown also has 40 years of experience in the military? He has his own extensive and complex network of relationships. You can actually unplug Brown, but his connections in the military, can you unplug his network? Will they be convinced? Liberal forces throughout the military will fight even more, will be dissatisfied. 2 months went by, Trump's bigger action strikes. He's just a 4-star general who was cut 20% by the Ministry of Mines, although it was not announced who the 20% of the 4-star generals who were fired were. But a week after the order was announced, just let go of 2 female 4-star generals. Then he targeted the remaining 2 female generals. It's the 4 digits above the picture. It can be said that the goal of this purge within the U.S. military is particularly clear. The inner hill of diversity, the liberal hill. The U.S. military consists of 5 navies, the Army, the Air Force, plus the Marines and the Space Force. This major ruling will be planned for all 5 branches of the military. No one can escape. In August, Hegseth fired Lieutenant General Cruz, the Director of Defense Intelligence. The reason is that the director opposes the central government, opposed the fight against one party, refusal to cooperate with military operations against one party. This person is Biden, just resigned in 2024. Online conservative filming, netizens rumored that just by looking at his face, you can tell that he has homosexual tendencies. Democrats also spewed Trump, said he put loyalty first, rather than national security. Those who disobey, not the conservative faction, will be fired without hesitation. And here we are today. The Secretary of Defense announced the recall of more than 800 generals from around the world to return to their homeland. I believe that after listing so many things above, everyone will understand. This conference is an ideological purge to solve the two mountain problems that must be solved within the U.S. military at present. And the problem of confronting the fate of the central government's refusal to implement or passive implementation. If the Trump administration captures the effect of the big knife and the sharp knife within the U.S. military, the entire combat system of the U.S. military will be turbulent and chaotic. The internal morale of the entire U.S. military will be very low as a result. According to a number of liberal generals within the U.S. military who deliberately disclosed to informed sources, will give an ideological speech on the warrior spirit to more than 800 U.S. generals. But top generals are also bracing for impending firings and demotions. Every day so-called warrior spirit speech. In plain English, it's a speech of allegiance to Trump. It's also a sworn speech to conservative ideology. You generals either obey Trump, submit to conservative ideology, or just wait to get out. Hegseth posted on his Twitter feed, the demand for allegiance to Trump has been made unabashedly clear. Hodges, the former commander of the U.S. Army in Europe, said on Twitter, in 1935 the German generals were summoned to Berlin for a conference. The meeting told them that the oath to the German constitution was invalid. You must swear an oath to Hitler. So under this high pressure, most German generals were forced to swear allegiance to Hitler. To keep their jobs, after seeing the former senior officer's comments, Hewitt not only does it not refute, instead he replied, what a great story, General. Some say Hegseth was just joking. But judging from what he has done and the speeches he will give, he's not joking. It's recognition. He believed that the German generals were loyal to Hitler. It's a really great story. The U.S. military should also be loyal to Trump, or at least allegiance to conservative ideology. Or allegiance, or get out. It's that simple. It's a loyalty test. It's not hard to imagine. By September 30th, when Hegseth gave his warrior spirit speech on stage, how many cameras will be under the stage? And how many non-commissioned officers are looking around? Just to watch when Hegseth speaks. 谁鼓掌了？谁没有鼓掌？ It was like Hitler's speech. The Gestapo will send someone to the venue to see who doesn't applaud. Those who don't applaud will be investigated and arrested. Of course, the U.S. military is not going to arrest the general who did not applaud. But applause or not, this loyalty test will definitely show up at Hegseth's speech. He who doesn't clap is disgruntled. To confront the Trump administration, these generals won't stay in the army. I have to say it. The history of the United States is reversed in a hurry and violently. It takes us back to the 1930s, right before World War II. But here's the thing, the fight is far from over with the removal of a group of liberal generals. On the contrary, this military infighting has only just begun. Unless Trump has the skills to keep the Republicans in power forever. Otherwise, wait until the Democrats transform the golden Washington back again. 那他现在这么做又有什么意义呢？ You wash the left wing, I'm washing the right wing. It's washed around like a front-loading washing machine. It depletes the morale of the U.S. military, the combat effectiveness of the U.S. military, and the entire combat command system of the U.S. military. The U.S. military is the most powerful military organization. No external enemy can defeat him. But he's going to kill himself half-dead. Well, today's U.S. military internal I will talk to you about this when the washing officially starts. Thank you for your likes and attention. I will continue to bring you more news. I am Zhang Pingzhou. See you next time. Bye.